Hey, what's up, fantasy managers? Thank you for watching the Fantasy Football Show. And we are getting oh so close to the fantasy football season. And there was a lot of transactions that happened during this offseason. And you were probably busier than me during this summer, and you probably missed some things. So in this episode, I'm going to go over the top 6 things that you should be aware of entering the 2023 season. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Number 6. So throughout this video, when we're discussing certain subjects, I'm also going to give a little bit of my opinion on it. The first thing I want to talk about are change of coaches. And why is this important? Is because head coaches and offensive coordinators have their own offensive system. They have their own scheme that they're bringing to a new team. And the players on those teams are going to be impacted by it. So the first coach we're going to talk about is Frank Reich, who's the coach of the Panthers. He was the coach of the Colts last year. Frank Reich created a star in Jonathan Taylor and went 9-8 in 2021, but was fired last season after a Week 9 loss to the Patriots. The Colts were 3-5-1 at that time, but look for Frank to focus on the run game in Carolina. Sean Payton is now the head coach of the Broncos. Payton was the coach of the Saints. He took some time off, then signed this offseason with the Broncos. 8 out of 15 years as the Saints head coach, they were top 2 in total offense. Now Sean is coaching a team with Russell Wilson, Jared Jeudy, and Javonte Williams. DeMeco Ryans is now the head coach of the Texans. He was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. This is Ryans' first head coaching job. Ryans drafted C.J. Stroud second overall in the NFL draft. Now we're going to see if he can mold Stroud into a high-quality quarterback. Shane Steichen is the head coach of the Colts, and he was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles last year. Eagles were 24th in passing attempts and were top 3 in rushing attempts. Also, Jalen Hurts had 13 rushing touchdowns last year. Sounds like a perfect system for Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Gannon is now the head coach for the Cardinals. Last year, he was a defensive coordinator for the Eagles. Cardinals were 23rd in sacks per game. Eagles were 1st. But the Cardinals are probably the least talented team in the NFL, and their starting quarterback is coming back from ACL tear. So, good luck, Jonathan Gannon. Ravens hired Todd Monken from the Georgia University as their new offensive coordinator. He helped Georgia win back-to-back national titles. Georgia was 4th in scoring last year, averaging 41 points per game. I guess there's no defense in college. Jets hired Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator. He was the head coach for the Broncos last season. When Nathaniel Hackett was Aaron Rodgers' OC, Rodgers won back-to-back MVP seasons on the Green Bay Packers. Chargers hired Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, who was the OC for the Cowboys last season. The Cowboys were 4th in points per game last season, and the Chargers were 12th in points per game last season. And Cowboys were 1st in points per game in 2021. The Commanders hired Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator, who was the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs last year. We saw what the Chiefs did without a true number 1 wide receiver. Not tight end, but wide receiver. The Chiefs were still 1st in points per game last season. The Commanders were 24th last year. Eric Bieniemy wants a head coaching job in the NFL. Turning the Commanders into a powerhouse team and maybe winning like 10 games next year, that might propel him right into the direction of a head coaching job. Number 5. Now I'm going to talk about players that went to different teams. This could be a positive or negative fantasy outlook for 2023 for these players. We're going to start off with Aaron Rodgers. He went to the Jets. Rodgers is coming off of one of the worst seasons in his career, but there are more weapons for Rodgers in New York, and he's connecting with Nathaniel Hackett again. Odell Beckham Jr. to the Ravens. Beckham is 30 years old, and he hasn't played in a year, but the Ravens are expecting to throw a lot. Devin Singletary and Dalton Schultz to the Texans. Devin Singletary is going to be sharing the backfield with Dameon Pierce, and Dalton Schultz is going to be a good tight end for rookie C.J. Stroud. DeAndre Hopkins to the Titans. In 9 games, he tallied 64 receptions, 717 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He could still ball. Jimmy Garoppolo to the Raiders. I can't remember the last time Jimmy Garoppolo was a fantasy factor. Brandin Cooks to the Cowboys. Cooks would be a number 2 option in a new offensive system on a run-first team. Darren Waller to the Giants. The Giants needed a number 1 receiving option, so they signed a very talented, injury-prone, soon-to-be 31 years old, tight end for that role. Rashaad Penny and DeAndre Swift to the Eagles. Rashaad Penny career yards per carry is 5.2, but he's missed 19 games in 2 seasons. DeAndre Swift is a very talented pass catcher. He has missed 11 games in 3 seasons. DJ Moore and Deontay Foreman to the Bears. DJ Moore is a solid number 1 option for Justin Fields. We just hope that DJ Moore will help improve Justin Fields' completion percentage of 59.2%. Deontay Foreman earned 5 touchdowns and 800 yards when CMC was traded last year from the Panthers. Now he brings that talent to a Bears team who led the league in rushing. David Montgomery to the Lions. Jamaal Williams scored 17 touchdowns behind that top 5 offensive line. David Montgomery is a more talented runner than Jamaal Williams. Miles Sanders to the Panthers. Miles Sanders recorded 11 touchdowns on 1,200 rushing yards last season with the Eagles. And Frank Reich wants to get Miles Sanders involved more in the passing game. Derek Carr and Jamaal Williams to the Saints. Derek Carr is 63 and 79 as a starter. He would be looking for a resurgence. Jamaal Williams, he led the NFL in rushing last year. Number 4. Now I'm going to talk about the terrific twos, the second-year wide receivers. And this is important because statistically, wide receivers improve the most their second year. Some examples of this is Jamar Chase last year. He did miss 5 games, but he still had more receptions and more targets in 2021. Jalen Waddle was 18th overall in 2021 and was 7th overall in 2022. Amon-Ra St. Brown was 20th overall in 2021, finished 9th overall in 2022. And the biggest one is Devontae Smith. In his first year, he was outside the top 10. And then his second year, which was last year, ended 10th overall in 2022. That was all standard league scoring too. So let's get into the second year wide receivers for 2023. Garrett Wilson. Last year, he was rookie of the year with Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White as quarterbacks. Now he has Aaron Rodgers. Chris Olave. When Jameis Winston was quarterback, Olave was leading the league in deep targets. The new quarterback, Derek Carr, was first in air yards a game last year. Treylon Burks, he looks like A.J. Brown. Mid-season with Ryan Tannehill and Treylon played together, he averaged 15 yards a catch. Then injuries hit both of them, but they're returning healthy. And a new acquired teammate, DeAndre Hopkins, will grab attention from the defenders. Drake London. London averaged 7 receptions a game in the last 4 games of the season with Desmond Ridder as quarterback. Desmond Ridder will be the starting QB now at the start of the season. JaHan Dotson, 7 touchdowns last season as a rookie. And doesn't Dotson seem like a player that Eric Bieniemy wants to draw up plays for? Christian Watson did a drag route, caught 1 pass from Jordan Love, and ran it for a touchdown last year. Make what you will with that. George Pickens, he struggles with separation, but makes amazing catches. George Pickens is lighting up training camp right now. Skyy Moore, other experts believe that Skyy Moore is going to be the solid number 2 option behind Travis Kelce. We'll see. Number 3. So this part of the episode, I'm going to talk about players returning from injuries or who are suspended. The reason why this is important is because players who have a big injury and they come back the following year, they're not at their final form. And then, of course, players who are suspended, they're going to miss some time. Some examples of this from last year. Players who returned from injuries in 2022. Gus Edwards, who tore his ACL, played in 9 games in 2022. J.K. Dobbins, his teammate, also tore his ACL, played in 15 games, but it took until December before he looked healthy running again. Michael Gallup, an ACL tear. He only had 39 receptions on 4 touchdowns last year. Brian Robinson, gunshot to the leg. He was inefficient last year with a 3.9 yards per carry and only 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins missed 6 games last year because he was suspended, but he played very well when he returned, but he also only played 9 games because of injuries. So let's talk about players who are coming back from injuries or who are suspended this year. So Javonte Williams had an ACL and LCL tear last October. Breece Hall tore his ACL last October. Jameson Williams suspended 6 games for gambling. Calvin Ridley, he was suspended for all of 2022 for gambling. The last game that he played was 10/24/2021. Lamar Jackson, knee sprain, which is bad because he's a dual threat quarterback. His last game was last December. Cooper Kupp, he had a high ankle sprain that ended his 2022 season after just 9 games. Coach shut down Cooper Kupp for the season. It was just to be cautious, but his last game was November. Kyle Murray, a blade of grass tore his ACL in December. Brock Purdy injured his elbow and his throwing arm back in January. Matthew Stafford, a spinal cord contusion in November. And the Miami quarterback, Tua, back injury week 3 and 3 concussions last year. Played in 13 games. His last game was on Christmas in 2022. Ryan Tannehill had 2 ankle injuries last year that caused ankle surgery in December. Michael Thomas, he has been dealing with ankle injuries the past 3 years. Came back in 2023, played 3 games, and had another ankle surgery and was out for the rest of the season. Thomas last played last September. And the most recent, Alvin Kamara, he suspended 3 games at the beginning of this year. Number 2. Now let's get into the sweater weather. And this is something you want to keep in the back of your mind, because if you have players that play outdoors and they're going to be playing in the winter time where it's rains, it's cold, it's snowy, it can impact the players' performance. Just go and look at the Bills-Bengals games of last year. All right, so the team that plays the most indoor games next year is New Orleans. They play 13 indoor games. Their only winter game is when the game is played at Tampa in Week 17, Fantasy Championship Week. Plan accordingly. The second team is Detroit Lions. They play 12 games indoor. Their only winter game is Week 14 at Chicago. The Las Vegas Raiders also play 12 indoor games next year. They play a Week 11 game in Miami and at Kansas City in Week 16, second round of the playoffs. Number 1. This last informational piece that I'm giving, I'm calling it the shift in the wind. And it's because the last 20 years or since I've been playing, it's always running backs in the first round, running backs first pick, no matter what. But we're starting to see a change. And now we're seeing more of a new trend coming where it's wide receivers go in the first round because they are the main attraction. I want you guys to be aware of this trend so you have an easier draft strategy. Now, all these stats I want to give you, they're from Bleacher Report, right? So in 2022, 9 out of the 12 picks in the first round were running backs. Running backs were drafted in the first 8 picks. Only Travis Kelce, Justin Jefferson, and Cooper Kupp were drafted in the first round that weren't running backs. So Jonathan Taylor, the 2022 consensus number 1 overall. In 2023, his ADP is 12th. That's like second round in a 10-man. Christian McCaffrey, 2022 drafted 101. 2023 ADP, 103. Dalvin Cook, last year, 103. 2023, he's a free agent now. He is going into the 7th round. The highest I saw Dalvin Cook before being released was 3rd round. Derrick Henry, 2022, 104. ADP this year, 21st. Austin Eckler, 2022, 105. This year, his ADP is 4. Pretty much the same. Joe Mixon, last year was 106. His ADP this year is 39th. Nick Chubb last year was 107. This year he's 14th. Najee Harris last year was 108. This year's ADP is 27th, but that's on the rise. DeAndre Swift last year was 12th. That's the last pick in the first round. This year he's 61st overall. What I see now in the first rounds is Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, and Travis Kelce. So it's overpowered by receiving. All right, we're at the end of the video. So what did we go over? We went over change of coaches, same face, different place, the terrific twos, players who missed time, most indoor games, and a shift in the wind. And by reviewing this information, you should be able to head into your draft more prepared to destroy your league mates. We got some more videos coming out the rest of the month. Make sure to check Tyler's informational videos. They're really good and they can help you in the draft. So please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Deuces.